Alrighty friends, hello, here we are. It is today the 8th of June, I guess. We're in June, and it's the 8th, and it's 2022, and here we are, 9 a.m. Wednesday morning. Chat with Matt time, half an hour or so. Talk about whatever you might like to talk about. What have we got here? I popped a little poster on last night that basically said, can you relax into a deeper relationship with life beyond the process of applying conclusory, I don't even know if that's a word, but I used it, labels to every object and situation you recognize. We do this all the time, right? Our frigging intellectual mind just loves to get the little hint of satisfaction when we apply the correct, quote unquote, the correct label to a situation, you know. We just love those, especially if they're judgments too. We love that. The ego loves to judge other things because in doing so, we, you know, create a hierarchy where we can sort of elevate our own station in there to appease this ego that's feeling insignificant, or what's the right word, insecure. Basically, this is in my little meme poster. Basically, are you willing to choose happiness, or must you keep trying to be right? Hey, Sister Mary, how are you? Must you continue to try and be right? You know, would you rather be right or happy? This is a statement that I like to bring into my mind consistently, because it helps me choose hey Sister Michelle, what mentality I'm allowing to drive me, what mindset am I allowing, what narrative am I allowing to predominate in any particular moment, right? Because this narrative of, you know, analysis and judgment and applying labels, you know, trying to understand the world, overly simplifying, reductionist mindset, sort of simplification of the world, to appease the ego is contagious. It's well entrenched, and society is encouraging us all to keep doing it, right? Our whole system is built around running this mentality, but it's incredibly joy-sapping. It is incredibly detrimental to relaxing into happiness, because, hey Sister Susie, because when we're continually trying to get it right, then we're continually are worried about getting it wrong. And as long as we're running that paradigm, as long as we're stuck in that polarity where there's right and there's wrong, and we have to get it right, then there's always going to be incredible amounts of stress, and incredible amounts of stress disconnect us from the truth of who we be, disconnect us from our intuitive guidance, and create this situation where we get even more reliant on trying to use our mind to get it right or wrong, because we've lost connection with what intuitively would just guide us through having the best outcome, not worried about whether it's right or it's wrong, because how the frig do you tell what's right and wrong? It's all very, very relative, right, to the observer. What's right for one person is not right for another. And so if we continue to try to get it right, then we're always going to be juggling whose right are we applying. And then we've got this whole hierarchy going on, this whole analysis of hierarchical rules. You know, are we trying to please our mother right now? Are we trying to please our wife? Or are we trying to please our daughter? You know, which, because they all have a different opinion on what's right for you to do right now, and you have to choose which one you're appealing to, or a combination. Are you going to try and, you know, compromise? Are you, you know, the mentality that goes on with that's just a simple example. That's just a simple example. You could add in there, are you trying to please your law? Are you trying to please your doctor? Are you trying to please your priest, as well as your wife, your mother, your daughter, right? Because there's all of these different layers, and there's so much contradiction in there about what is right. And if you're trying to avoid being wrong, then you're going to just create a shit ton of stress, because you can't avoid being wrong. We're all wrong in somebody's eyes. In any one particular moment, we're all doing it wrong. We're all being wrong. So we have to let go of our fear of being wrong and just relax. And just relax. Sister Zena wrote a question in, and I better read it. I think it's going to dovetail nicely into where we are. Morning, Matt. What is, in your opinion, the best way to snap out of worry, busy mind chatter, and reconnect with a more peaceful, thought processed / relaxed state of being? What, in your opinion, is the best way? There is no best way to snap out of worry, busy mind. What suits one person is not going to suit another. What works, sorry, I just got to get rid of my thing. There's a little bit of stuff stuck on my, there we go, that's better. I know it's still there, but anyway, I'll live with that. What suits us, what works well for us in one moment might not work well for us in another moment or a different situation. So there is no real easy best way to snap out of busy mind. That would be too easy, right? Life is, that sort of reductionist mindset of what's the right way to do it, what's the best way to do it, just does not hold water in this life. You have created this world with far more complexity, far more interest and nuances and entanglements than just having a best way to do anything. Right? Otherwise, we would all just learn the best way to do everything and we would live this life very robotically, right? We would just live it very robotically because we just keep doing the best thing to achieve any particular result that we wanted, and we'd always be satisfied, and wouldn't that be fucking boring? So we don't get that opportunity. There is never a best way to do anything. There are ways that work, and they will continue to evolve. And what works for one person may not work for another, and what worked for you today might not work tomorrow. And that is the joy of it. But ultimately, how do you snap out of worry, busy mind chatter? There's numerous techniques. Some of them that work more often than not for me is to just stop, close my eyes and take a couple of deep breaths. Really conscious deep breaths, filling into the lower parts of my belly first, letting that rise up into my chest, feeling very present in that fullness, and then allowing that exhalation to carry away my worry, my busyness, my anxiety, my concerns, my lack mentality or problem-centric thinking. I just breathe it out, because when you choose to stop and take those deep breaths, on the inhalation, on the inspiration, it becomes, for me anyway, quite clear as to what I'm worried about and to the folly of that, right? It becomes very clear that I've fallen into an old habit that's not benefiting me. And then I get the choice to breathe out and let that go. If I can do that consistently throughout my day, I reduce my overall stress levels quite significantly, and I sort of avoid the accumulation of stress, because the problem is once we become stressed, we start operating from a stressed mindset, which creates more stress, unfortunately, because as I said, we cut off from our intuitive guidance, we create contraction and resistance in our body, and then everything that happens after that tends to build, snowball in this way. And so by the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of your life, if you haven't done anything to mitigate that, you're in a world of hurt, you're in a lot of pain, because you are so stressed and you are so entangled and you've got so confused and you are so disconnected from who you be, from that conglomeration of stress build up, that what's the point of living? You're having an experience that will, hopefully you'll get to a level of pain where you will have, you basically break down to break through. You basically have to make change because it's become, the level of pain that you've created has become untenable. That's, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a valid pathway of evolution. It's just not necessarily the most pleasant pathway to evolution. And, those of us who are gaining more awareness and gaining a capacity to make conscious choice in moments don't have to go there, right? We just don't have to go there nearly as often as potentially we once did. So I like using the breath. There's other techniques that you can use in combination with the breath. One is to remove yourself from situations, even if it's only for a little moment. And that can be just looking up from your computer screen and staring out the window for 10, 20, 30 seconds, right? And giving your eyes a rest from this for a start. And focusing on something that's more natural, like a tree outside. Hopefully you see a bird or something that reminds you that there's more to life than what's going on in your virtual world and your computer screen that's creating all of the stress that you are trying to solve. Other things, using water therapy, like just freaking get in and have a shower. Have a hot shower, have a cold shower, have both. that tends to awaken you to the process of life and get you out of, right, to snap out of the worrying about shit that you basically can't control most of the time. We worry about stuff rather than truly caring about the outcome. This is the you know, the polarity that we get sort of stuck in. How do we care deeply without allowing this shadow side of worry and anxiety to creep in and overshadow the deep compassion, caring that we have as empathic, sensitive beings of light, right? We should care. You know, this old school way of avoiding worry by quote unquote, I don't care, is bullshit, right? It's immature. It's not very light filled, right? To think either you're going to worry or you're not going to care. Those are your two choices. No, you can care and not worry. It just takes a little bit more discipline. That's all. It just takes a little bit more effort on your part to care deeply and still choose to consciously cut out of, elevate out of, expand out of the worry process, right? Which is just when your mind runs away on yourself and you start going down rabbit holes of trying to solve problems that aren't even there generally, right? Anywho, so yeah, lots of different options to snap out of worry, busy mind chatter, and in my opinion, the best way to do it for me, more often than not, but doesn't always hold true, is to breathe. And if you want to really get that process working for you well, set your timer on your phone. Have your timer go off every hour as a good starting point, right? Throughout your day, on the hour if you like. Your phone beeps and you stop and you close your eyes and you spend 30 seconds taking 2 deep breaths, choosing to reconnect to who you be and to breathe out and let go of your stress. If you do that, say you manage to do that 8 times during the day, right? I'm not expecting you to do it 14 times or 15 times, you know, which is generally you're awake for 14 or 15 hours of the day. If you did that, that would be awesome. But let's say you managed to do it about half of those hours, you manage to do it. You do it 8 times. You've spent 4 minutes, right? 8 times 30 seconds, 4 minutes of your day, not a huge investment, right? This, you know, a lot of people freak out and say, I can't do that. I don't have time to do that. You don't have 4 minutes in your day to head off your stress response and bring yourself out of a worrisome mind, right? I know it's a bit fiddly. You've got to set a friggin' repeat alarms on your phone, and it's inconvenient to have an alarm go off and at that time to actually stop and close your eyes and take 2 deep breaths. But I tell you what, it's worth it. It's freaking worth it. And it's not easy. And I know it's only 4 minutes of your day, but you'll want to smash your phone at some stage, I guarantee you. But if you manage to keep doing it, you will be pleasantly surprised at how you start being in the world, right? How much more relaxed you are in the world generally. Doesn't mean you don't have peak moments, not at all. But at least you head them off more consistently, more regularly, more quickly, and you don't allow it to build. You consciously stop and take those breaths. And then add some extra things in, like going for a little walk, getting out in nature, looking away from your screen, consciously connecting and reminding yourself on who you be as a being rather than the experience you're having in the feeling world or the mental world, right? Which is quite often a reflection of what you are releasing. You remember that little mantra, what I'm feeling is what I'm releasing. When you're feeling shitty, when you're feeling confused, when you're feeling upset in some way, mentally or emotionally, that is an indication that you are releasing dense energies out of your field, and not to make yourself wrong and not to feel that you're a failure. Don't beat yourself up for feeling beat up, basically. Be compassionate, remind yourself you're releasing, remind yourself you're in a process of transformation, a process of purification, and allow it to carry you forward. Awesome. Now I think I saw Jill put in a comment, so I'm just going to refresh my screen and I'll read it down here because it's already scrolled miles up my phone. You're welcome, Mary. It is a good reminder. I need to do it more often too. I think I'll set my phone, and I have turned I used to have it on my computer as well, the bells of mindfulness that you can set, and it bongs, and it's great, and I have turned it off recently, so maybe I'll turn that back on for myself, because it's easy to opt out. Anyway, Jill said, I jumped today from giving and receiving, etc. I jumped today from giving and receiving, etc. to thinking about being brought up to feel wrong to ask for things, physical or energetic, i.e. better to wait and see if others give to me rather than coming forward and asking for something. Mixed up stuff. Course was told you don't get something if you ask for it. Oh yeah, that's right. The parents trying to train you to be humble and not ask for things by not giving you something you ask for, but giving you something as a reward for being a good child and not asking for something. Yeah, that was a great little conspiracy, isn't it? Yeah. So and there is some validity into not being, quote unquote, the needy person, always asking for others to give to you. I was talking about this. When was I talking about this? I think it was in yesterday's meditation, right? In our support community, our paid subscription community. I was sort of riffing on this idea of, we always say giving and receiving. We don't say giving and taking, and we don't say offering and receiving. So we use the more forceful version of offering, giving, and the more passive version of receiving versus taking, which I find is interesting, and I think there's a little bit more for me to inquire around this, why we usually use the term giving and receiving as opposed to offering and receiving. How many of us, don't want to be a taker but are willing to receive, and yet would much prefer or are very happy to give rather than just to offer? We'll give our advice, we'll give our support rather than just offering it. So we're happy to be forceful on the giving side, but not forceful on the taking side, on the receiving side. So that's rather interesting, and I think there's a little bit more inquiry for me to do around that, to think a little bit more on that. However, what were we saying here? Yes, about being brought up to feel that it's wrong to ask for things. And I think it all just comes down to how we ask. Are we being forceful in our asking? Are we being demanding in our asking? Just as are we being demanding in our giving? Because quite often, many of us, I feel, for myself, this was my inquiry yesterday when I was leading a meditation, which is when these inquiries sometimes come up, when I'm talking to a group of people just like now, is that there is a definite need to give. And so to just offer my services, to just offer my support, to just offer my love, rather than give it, would feel vulnerable. I feel vulnerable in just offering, because what if it's refused? What if I don't get given the opportunity to then follow through with what I feel I need to do in order to be a good, right, proper person, right? Indoctrinated with this belief that a giver is a good person and a taker is a bad person, I want to give. So, how can I relax out of my need to give and to be just more open in my offer to be of service? This is a new level of my inquiry that's just developing right here, right now, in front of you guys. So I feel a little bit vulnerable too here now, expressing this sort of mental processing for me, because I'm just recognizing how uncomfortable I feel about the idea of really moderating and being mindful of how often I give rather than just offer. And the fact that is basically forcing my desires onto another. Right? When I'm giving love, I'm basically, and you might think, well, there's no harm in that, right? And to some degree, no, there's not. But what I'm interested in is what's driving me, my mentality. Is it pure, or is it based on my insecurities, my not good enough, right? I want to give because in giving, I appease the part of me that doesn't feel enough in just being, right? Because giving is a doingness, rather than if I just be myself as an offer, right? As offering my radiance very, very passively in my beingness, rather than doing the act of giving. Can I be enough? Can I overcome the mentality, the program in me that's concerned that I'm not being enough of a contribution if I just be as an offering rather than do the giving? So that's something interesting, isn't it? That's something interesting to start unraveling. Susie wrote, or how we are being perceived versus intentions when asking. Yeah, exactly. And our perception of what someone else perceives us, all right? Because we try, and this is the interesting thing, we have a fear that someone else is perceiving us as being needy when our intent was not, right? We have these underlying subconscious beliefs that then, interestingly, flavors how we perceive the other person's reaction, so that we think that they've perceived us as being needy when really we weren't wanting to be needy. But of course there's a need under that, right? Because we need them to perceive us in a certain way. We're worried about how they perceive us rather than just being happy in our intent, right? So even when we start questioning how another is receiving us is indicative of our own insecurities running. And while, of course, there's levels and layers to that, it can be a very caring thing to inquire into how someone else is receiving us, how someone is perceiving us, based on whether they are comfortable or not, and what is driving them, and how we could potentially offer to help them, potentially, or not. But the point is, I'm always intrigued in the entanglement that we get ourselves in when we start trying to analyze how someone else is perceiving us, because quite often we get that wrong. I know from my own experience that quite often we get that wrong when we believe we understand, or believe that we're getting clues from someone else about how they are receiving us and how they are perceiving us, because it is always flavored by some rather tricky insecurities within us, some rather tricky programs that are still running inside of ourselves. So some of our deepest concerns come out in these almost conspiracy theories that we have, that someone else is believing that we're being a certain way when we're not intending to be that way, right? And around this entanglement goes. And rather than just having good, open, clear communication as best we can, and there's no such thing as completely clear communication, let's face it, because we're always communicating through our lenses, through our perceptions, through our narratives, right? We can't help that. And it's okay. It's not that we're here to be completely clean. It's not that we're here, because if we were, we would be personalityless if we were completely clean and completely able to communicate without any emotional or intellectual or energetic influence from past experiences. We would lose a lot of nuance. We would lose a lot of the opportunity to have deeper experiences. That's what would happen, right? What's the point of having all of this history if it doesn't flavor us? But there's levels and layers to this, and when we start to peel away some of the more negative, whatever that is, influential programs, we can become much more capable of stepping forward into what feels more purposeful for us. So it's interesting, right? I've actually just last night created a little poster, which I will put up at some time today, which says, completion continues to be elusive. And I haven't written the whole piece yet. I want to write a bit of a blog on this idea of completion and how we are so enamored with it as humans, this idea that once I complete my purification, my cleansing, my letting go of my mother wounds, etc., then I'll be capable of being happy, etc., etc. There is no completion to that process, and there's no need for it to complete. If by some miracle we were completely cleared of our history, what would be left of us other than just a very clean aspect of the divine, which there's plenty of. There's plenty of that, right? There's plenty of that, right? There's a lot of little angelics who are very, very clean because they haven't had much experience. That's not you. You've had all of this experience for a reason, not now to wipe it all away, but to grow through it, right? To grow through it, to have all of that, and to yet still keep expanding into more amazing expressions of yourself, despite the fact that you've got all of these wounds, all of these stories, all of these narratives, right? Yes, it is helpful to recognize some of them that are pertinent and creating resistance to what your heart desires to do right now. But you don't need to let it all go. It's the completion bit that we get locked in, right? Yes, we need to reduce it to a level that it's not overly influencing our ability to move forward. Yes, we need to do that. We need to reduce our levels of trauma so that we're capable of operating despite the fact that we're aware that we've experienced trauma in the past, right? Because if that trauma is so influential that it shuts us down, that's an issue, right? Because now we don't get to really express ourselves as the divine being. So, and many of us are carrying traumas to that level, right? And it is shutting us down to a level that our soul finds detrimental. So we are on a purifying process right now, but we don't need to complete that process. We just need to get to a point where we can move on. We can move on. And a lot of people, get contracted around that and really want to have these completions so we can tick that off and feel very satisfied and then not worry about it anymore, right? This idea that, I won't worry about it once it's completely gone. You are always going to get the opportunity to worry about something. Right? Trying to avoid all stuff that you might worry about so that you don't worry about stuff is defeatist. It's immature and it's disempowered. You are always going to have things to worry about. Your job is to get to the point where you can have lots of things to worry about, but choose not to worry, right? That's true freedom. That's true empowered freedom, right? The peace is not the absence of distraction, right? Yeah, anyone can have peace sitting in some friggin', hut in the wherever, free of distraction. Of course, their mind will come up and drive them absolutely mad when the external world gets quiet. That's most people don't recognize that until it happens. Thinking all very ideal. If I go to this little hut in the forest, then I can have peace finally, and then their mind absolutely destroys them within hours of getting into that peaceful environment with no distraction to temper it. But and then the point is, they think, well, once I've cleared all this stuff from my mind, then I'll be peaceful. No, you get to choose peace, right? You get to choose peace despite the fact that there's always distraction around you. You get to choose to stay confident in yourself, even though there is always lots of things that you could potentially worry about. This is the point. This is the journey of mastery. This is your evolution. This is your ascension. It's not to become free of all of these things so that it's no longer there and therefore it's easy to be peaceful and joyful and calm. No. A master doesn't avoid what is potentially difficult. A master moves through, expands through, experiences it and overcomes it. This is the point. This is where you're moving to. You're moving to mastery, not to avoidance. So let go of this idea that you'll be happy when you have completed all of this spiritual stuff, right? All of this clearing stuff, all of this ascension stuff. Then you'll be happy. No. You get to choose your happiness now, right? In the midst of the shitstorm, you get to choose to be happy now. You get to choose to be peaceful. You get to choose not to worry, even though the shit is hitting the fan and it's splattering everywhere and it stinks and it's messy and it's unpleasant. You get to choose, right? Because the more that you do choose to be happy despite the fact that you're neck deep in your process, the more easily your process starts to flow, and the challenges don't seem to become so problematic, right? The propensity to worry isn't so intense, right? You still got the opportunity to worry, but because you are developing a habit where you are choosing not to, you choose not to more often. This is it. It's just slowly about creating this foundation of empoweredness. Empoweredness, I'm sure that's not a word, but I almost want to use empowerability now. I'll pick all of the words that aren't common usage in our language. So yes, my friends, that's it. Hopefully that has inspired you and helped to move forward. I think I'm done for time. Yeah, that's pretty much 30 minutes. What else was I going to say? Yes, so come back to the basic. Yes, it's true. The silence can be maddening. Yeah, and in that maddening process, there is great opportunity if you can manage to relax through it, right? But of course, there's always levels to silence that is too much for us, right? I think you actually brought up, I think you posted once, Mary, that the world's most silent room or something that's, got all of this sound deadening stuff. And apparently the longest anyone has managed to stay in there is 45 minutes because the sound of your own blood rushing through your vessels and everything is basically maddening. It is that silent in there. So many of us cry out for peace and quiet when we feel, overwhelmed by the noise of the world around us. But even just in peaceful nature environments, it seems so idyllic at first. But you have to remember you're there with your mind. And when not so much is coming in, more is going to come out. And it's an awesome opportunity, but we all have to move in degrees that is appropriate for us. And that depends on how much practice we've done and how capable we are of using our practices to relax through the mental shitstorm that eventuates. This is why many of us meditate, right? Because, and it's the same in meditation, when you shut down all of your senses from the external world, the mind starts to go crazy. Your subconscious starts to purge of all of the crap that you've been suppressing, and that can be uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. But if you use your techniques and keep breathing, keep relaxing, keep reminding yourself this is okay, this is actually good, this is not you going mad, even though it seems like it, right? Just taking the higher perspective, expanding out of the small scale experience of the mental purification, then you can progress through it to a degree. Of course, we all have capabilities there, and we all reach our threshold, and we all have to back off. We all have to break out. We all have to go and distract ourselves and get some rest from that, and to come back and pick it back up again at another time. This is the point, right? Yeah, exactly, Mary. Mary said, it's happening now more in my dreams. We're all being helped through this process right now. The whole of society is going through a mass purification right now. As the vibration of our surroundings is lifting, our purification process is being driven forward, and stuff is coming out. It is getting to the point where we can't distract ourselves from it anymore. No matter what drug of choice we try and use, we're going to have to face this stuff. And so those of us who have been doing the practice for longer and have built a foundation in our ability to deal with this purification process are going to be able to help others who are quote unquote freaking out at what feels like a loss of sanity. That they're going insane, that they're losing their mind, that they're not able to control their mentality anymore because the dam is breaking, and all of what has been controlled and suppressed for so long is flowing out, and it is disturbing and it is potentially quite destructive unless you get some help to stabilize yourself in that. You can feel that you are psychically under attack. You can feel that you've gone mad. You can feel you get all paranoid, right? All sorts of shit can go down, and you can start acting in ways that is detrimental to your purpose, unfortunately. you definitely can. And that's not to be scared of the process. It's just to take it seriously, quote unquote seriously, not seriously stressed, but seriously that you are willing to invest time in doing the practices that help you manage this process. Because if you don't, and I don't often put out, if you don't do this, then this could happen. But there is a danger that, the purification process basically creates a situation where you do destructive things, which is unfortunate. But, again, it's not like you can destroy your soul or anything crazy. It's only the life that you're building and your physical temple here. That's all that you can really destroy. And that's, reasonably temporal anyway. As in temporary, not temple. It is a temple and it is temporary. It's a temporary temple that we reside in. So the point is not to get too concerned that if something bad does happen, you will soon enough pass and regenerate, reincarnate in some form, in some plane somewhere to continue. So not to flip out and freak out and think that anything is forever. Nothing's forever other than your beingness. Anyway, friends, I sort of started to say goodbye and then got off on one yet again. So do your practices, right? Be willing to do whatever it takes to keep consciously reducing your stress levels, and trust that you will come through this experience. And it's an awesome opportunity. It's an awesome opportunity, as difficult as it is to maintain our sanity and our peace and a degree of feeling comfortable, right? Because we're all recognizing, we're all gaining awareness that we are completely out of control. And this world is out of control around us. And as we gain that awareness, it can be a little disturbing. So awesome opportunity for practice. Anyway, friends, much love. I will be back again next week. If you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, please feel free to reach out. You can put some comments on in here. You can write me a personal message. You can write me an email. If you feel I can help, please reach out. We're here to serve you all. Bye for now. Namaste.